I am Liverpool's #1, Zack Gibson.
I'm Jimmy Havoc, King of the Goths, and I will be representing England
in the What Culture Pro Wrestling World Cup. This is exactly where I belong. Too many people focus on too few wrestlers from this country, and I am this country's premier wrestling talent. I am exactly where I belong, and you're going to see that in the World Cup.
I'm excited. I'm excited about being in this World Cup. I think world culture's been a long time coming for me, and I've got a lot to prove. You're still going to see Jimmy Havoc out there tonight, and you're going to get the best Jimmy Havoc I can give.
Jimmy is a unique talent. He's known around the world, you know, he's known around our country, he's known over in the States, over in Canada. He's known as a quality deathmatch wrestler. But this isn't a deathmatch tournament, this is a pro wrestling tournament. And the simple fact is that I am a better professional wrestler than Jimmy Havoc.
Zack's bigger than me, he's stronger than me. But I fought bigger, I fought stronger. So he's going to have to do a lot to stop me. I'm the sort of guy that's not going to keep coming. You've got to keep me down. But there's a lot of stuff that Zack Gibson's not going to be ready for from me. I'm willing to do anything to myself to make sure I progress in that tournament. And if you know anything about me, you know the sort of lengths I'm willing to go to. So, just good luck to Zack Gibson tonight, that's all I'll say.
So final first round match in the English qualifiers for the Pro Wrestling World Cup. It is Zack Gibson going head to head with Jimmy Havoc.
Yeah, you'll see Zack has a height advantage as well as a weight advantage. And this is going to be a very, very interesting matchup.
Here he is, Liverpool's #1, Zack Gibson. Current Future Shock wrestling champion. Among other things, he's the winner of the inaugural Davey Boy Smith Memorial Cup a couple of years back over in New Generation Wrestling. Gibson, one of the hottest prospects in British wrestling as a wrestler, and that's where he differs, Matt, from Jimmy Havoc, because Gibson is a wrestler, Havoc is a fighter.
Oh, this is a wrestling tournament, but we've seen different styles prevail thus far.
Mixed reception for Gibson, who recently made a name for himself on New Year's Eve as part of the World of Sports special on ITV. First time British wrestling had been on network television for a generation, and Gibson was at the heart of it. A disturbed mind, a fractured soul, and it all adds up to a very, very dangerous man. This is Jimmy Havoc. Havoc, a former Progress Wrestling champion, among many other things. Legendary deathmatch wrestler here in Great Britain. If the Pro Wrestling World Cup is all about a clash of styles, then this personifies it. These two could scarcely be any more different.
The following is a first round qualifier in the Pro Wrestling World Cup. It is set for one fall. Ladies and gentlemen, introducing first from Camden, London, weighing in tonight at 169 pounds, this is Jimmy Havoc! Ladies and gentlemen, his opponents, weighing in tonight.
Gibson wants to introduce himself, I think.
to be recognized as what culture's number one. Soon to be recognized as the UK's number one. And soon to be recognized as the world's number one. Now, despite the fact that I am surrounded by a bunch of brain-dead punters, despite the fact that watching at home are a bunch of entitled smart marks, and despite the fact that stood in front of me is Jimmy effing Havoc, all of whom know absolutely nothing about pro wrestling. Let me just explain, Mr. Deathmatch, how this match goes. I am going to drop you on the deck, wrap your weedy little arm around your head, lock the Shankly gates, and you will tap out to Liverpool's number one, Zack Gibson.
Wow, strong words.
I'm surprised you understood that, Matt. That broad Scouse accent.
Ladies and gentlemen, weighing in at 180 pounds, he says he is Liverpool's number one, Zack Gibson.
Gibson not exactly endearing himself to the crowd in Nottingham.
What I want to know is why in the world would you want to incense or enrage Jimmy Havoc? I mean, he's notorious, world-renowned as being unstable and hardcore.
Well, the thing with Havoc is I think he's always enraged, so I'm not sure if Gibson had anything to lose in that regard, but we'll see.
You get a shot, you can see the scars on the back of Jimmy Havoc's head, the wounds of war.
How many thumbtacks, light tubes, how many tables and chair shots has he taken in his career? I dread to think.
Now, you might be asking yourself at home, where does the advantage lie? Does it lie with the wrestler or does it lie with the brawler? Right now, it looks like Zack Gibson is firmly in control using, dare I say it, wrestling.
And this is how you would expect this to go. If Havoc's going to get into a wrestling match with Gibson, he's not going to come out on top, I would suggest.
Yeah, we just saw an incredible hold-for-hold, catch-as-catch-can wrestling match. And this hold was also used earlier in that match, but now the shoulders are down.
Havoc quickly rolling out and finding himself at a disadvantage.
Yeah, Havoc's going to need to devolve this match. Being told he's out of his league.
Gibson trying to get into the mind, the already delicate mind, as we said, of Jimmy Havoc. Gibson never lacking in self-confidence.
I like what he's doing there. Control the shoulder. We've been getting good wrestling lessons thus far. And hey, look, oh, there you go.
Now, Havoc's not going to counter you with a hold like we saw between Sabre and Skull. This isn't going to be that kind of match.
Oh, you could separate a shoulder right there, and Havoc rolls right out.
And you know what Gibson is doing there? Gibson is trying to weaken that shoulder for his Shankly Gate submission. Havoc on the outside now.
Look at that. Havoc baiting Gibson.
Now Havoc I think wants Gibson in his own territory because
of course.
Gibson may have the advantage in a wrestling match, but in a brawl.
Saying fight me, and that's a mistake. Gibson just made a critical error there, in my opinion.
Well, Havoc with more experience, and it showed there because he lured Gibson in and then takes him down with that Hurricane Rana.
Now everything changes out here. This is Jimmy Havoc's world.
Havoc got one chop, and this time eye poke. Bit of Martin Kirby coming out there. Gibson was almost sent face first into the chair, and this is the exact reverse of what happened inside the ring, where Gibson had the advantage. Now we're in Havoc's part of the world. On the outside, he is dominating.
Oh. Gosh.
And Gibson may live to rue ever leaving the ring.
Running boot wash. I wonder what Otani thinks of that.
They're up on the stage now. Referee Steve Linsky needs to try and get us back in the ring. This isn't a full count anywhere in that. She's got a hardcore match.
Havoc is clearing out the area here. And Gibson knew that there were bad intentions awaiting him. He was able to negate.
Well, what's Gibson doing here? Gibson is trying to Havoc, oh my! Into the chairs. Carnage there by the stage. Gibson finally taking the upper hand after Havoc delivered some real punishment on the outside.
Referee has not even begun his count. Of course, we don't want to see a count out end one of the matches here in the World Cup.
Right, and I think that's officiating experience, right? Because Linsky knows that, you know, we want to see a winner of this because Zack Sabre Jr. awaits in the second round.
Imagine a clash of styles. Think about how Zack would match up against Jimmy Havoc, and then think about how Zack would match up against his namesake and Zack Gibson.
Well, Havoc is rearranging the furniture here, and that can't be good news for Gibson. Gibson is deposited across 3 chairs in the front row. Now, Jimmy, no. Jimmy Havoc, double foot stomp over the barrier and through the abdomen of Zack Gibson. Jimmy Havoc with absolutely no regard for either his own well-being or his opponent's.
Now Havoc takes it back into the ring, firmly in control, full advantage to Jimmy effing Havoc.
Havoc's going to the second turnbuckle, another double foot stomp.
Cover.
Will that do it? No, it won't.
I'll tell you that modified missile basement drop kick, double foot stomp was right to the kidneys, and that is very painful. Zack Gibson may be peeing blood for a while.
Gibson's throat placed over the bottom rope, and he knows that was not a good place to be.
Yeah, well, not a good place for Jimmy's Havocs, if you know what I'm saying here.
It might be a good thing for the world if Jimmy Havoc doesn't have children. Gibson charges in, but finds an elbow to greet him. Ooh! Wow, goodness me, well that's a ticket to ride for Jimmy Havoc. That's what Gibson calls it. It's a 2 count. Gibson's so proud of his Liverpudlian heritage. It's interesting, his attitude can turn crowds against him in most of the country, but in Liverpool, he is revered. Exchanging forearms now, these two. Gibson's such a hard striker.
Yeah, and Gibson has a height and strength advantage here.
Gibson with the chop. But trying to fight back. But Insecure, he didn't get quite as high as he wanted to, just between the shoulder blades in the end.
Still effective.
This one is turning quickly into a real tussle in it. DDT eventually by Havoc. Goes for a Rainmaker clothesline and gets it.
The lefty line, is it enough?
Yes, it is. Jimmy Havoc advances to the second round. So it's going to be Havoc versus Zack Sabre Jr. for a place in the finals of the Pro Wrestling World Cup.
Yep, the brackets have been filled out. Ospreay versus Rampage, Havoc versus Sabre Jr. Place your bets, folks. This is the World Cup.
Jimmy Havoc finds himself 1 win away from the finals. But what an obstacle he's going to face in Zack Sabre Jr.
Here is your winner, and advancing in the World Cup qualifiers, Jimmy Havoc!
Havoc victorious in the final first round match here in the English qualifiers.